Sup nerds, I'm Tom.
I'm Wes.
And I'm Aaron.
We're Neverboard Gaming, and we're taking a look at Bushido by Gray Fox Games, the Kickstarter masterpiece right here.
Where's the box?
There's no box. It's a
prototipe.
we never box. We
No
don't box.
prototype.
Yeah, and the dice.
This game comes in a Ziploc bag.
So in this game, you're going to be drafting your cards that are your actions, and then you're going to be, using them to gather dice and roll those dice to do your damage to each other. If you watch our playthrough video, you can kind of, get a better feel for that.
Or if you want to get an even more in-depth look at it, you can definitely check out our how to play video.
Bushido to me is like the ultimate kind of hack and slash game. Like it was when I was first learning how to play it, and I was seeing that your health starts at 12, and the way that the hits stack up, one hit is 1 point, 2 hits is 3 damage, and it just goes all the way up, and the board even goes all the way to 10, where death is at 5. I'm like, that ratio doesn't even seem right to me, but it's because the way that the hits resolve at the end of your opponent's turn, so they have the ability to, evade and block a whole bunch. So it's just a huge, it's almost kind of like the way the Epic card game wanted to say, oh, I'm going to take Magic and just make everything broken and everything is super crazy, woo, 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 woo. Whereas this is kind of doing that with, Ashes or Destiny in a way.
Yeah.
I know it's very different from Star Wars Destiny, but it just uses...
And Ashes, really. It's...
Yeah, well, because you're not building your own deck. And that's another thing, is the drafting aspect is something different from the games of this type where you would be building your deck prior to sitting down. That draft, you really need to know the cards to be really, really maximizing. It definitely gets better after a couple of plays, because you could be like, ooh, getting the Sim School is really good, but if all you're getting is attack and no defense, you're going to be screwed later on.
I did find in our early playthroughs, we did get kind of hung up on trying to get 2 of this school and 2 of this school in a basic, and that was kind of what I wanted to get. And I missed out on some better cards, because I'm like, ooh, School of Fire, that card's really good, but I don't have any School of Fire. I'm going to get this School of Shadow because I have other ones though, so I can boost, when that would have been more powerful to play unboosted than this one would, even if I did boost it.
Yeah, and then when you do boost, you're actually losing out on a potential turn, because you're going to have to, change your guard sooner to draw your hand back up.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, if you're getting a bunch of those same cards and you're using them to boost, you may actually have those turns where you're actually doing nothing.
Yeah. There were some really cool strategies that I kind of discovered, and it really depends on how you draft. But I drafted a lot of cards that restricted what my opponent could resolve, so it was Tom, and it would say I'd play a card where it's oh, he can't resolve any red dice, or he can't roll any red dice this turn. Which I played when he was in high guard, and I only knew he had 1 card left in his hand, and he was like, oh, I'm going to super attack you next turn, you're not going to know what hit you. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to play this, and you can't roll any red dice now. And it forced him to change his guard and completely throw off his strategy, because he's like, oh, well, now I can roll 1 gray dice with the way this card is. So there's some really cool stuff that you can manipulate the game with there.
I do agree that the cards really have some cool effects, because they're not just, giving you the dice. They give you the dice, but then they have these abilities, and have comboing abilities, and they have copying abilities, and, choking abilities like you were talking about. And they do, while they don't have any cost, right? There's no resource in here where you have to pay X amount of tokens or whatever in order to play this card. They do have, well, like I just said, tokens. There are ways where you can gain these Torii tokens and use those to trigger abilities later. So it's kind of a pseudo resource that is completely optional. You can just draft cards that don't really, work with that mechanic, so you can avoid that completely. But I like the fact that they aren't just balancing numbers on each card. You ever see that you in Magic or whatever, where well, this is a 5/5 creature, so it'll be 6 mana. They just kind of balance up those numbers, but they really throw in a lot of wrenches in there with the abilities and the way that they work and the way that they combo with other cards, should you be able to get those other cards. That made me think that there's a lot of uniqueness to the way the cards are designed in this game.
I will say, because Tom was talking about how the cards have abilities, and your weapon that you're using has an ability, and then there's just static abilities and times that you get things. So it is really important that when you're first starting, you really take your time to figure out what everything is, go through steps of your turn. When we were first playing, I kept forgetting that my weapon had special abilities on it depending on what guard I was in. So I'd have in high guard where I could discard 2 armor tokens just to deal damage to him. Completely forgot about that, and I had 3 damage tokens sitting there, or not damage, 3 armor tokens sitting there for like a long time that I could have been using to deal damage to Tom. So when you're playing, especially early on until you get the grasp of it, make sure you're reading all your abilities. Know when you get rage tokens. Know how to or when to re-roll dice and when you get tokens and how to use tokens. Because there is it's a fairly straightforward game with a lot of things happening kind of in the background. So there is a really cool mechanic that actually reminded me of the exploding dice in Arcadia Quest. There's a Tory that you could re-roll it and another red dice and to keep bringing in more dice the more Tories you get. It's awesome.
So Wes played this game before me and he told me that. I was like, that sounds awesome. Arcadia Quest is my favorite game. I love exploding dice, and that is exactly what this does. But it gives you an option. You can use that exploding dice right now, take the Tory and re-roll, and hopefully get 2 hits.
Best case scenario.
Or you bank that Tory token, and on a later turn, you can re-roll all of your dice, which is, it's kind of like, getting ready to do it, and it's kind of thematic. It's like you're preparing for like a bigger move later, or you can just like go with the speed and just kind of like roll right away.
Yeah, that is a big like theme in this game, so to speak. It's like either do what you got to do right now, or like take a negative, take that damage just so that you can gear up to do a big hit later, because of the way the armor tokens and the Tory tokens and all that kind of stuff works. The way that you gather the tokens, but they're in your holding area, that you can't use them until next turn. And actually, I do want to comment on the Arcadia Quest thing, because I actually remember playing Arcadia Quest and not really liking that mechanic, the exploding dice, like in general. But the thing is, there were 2 reasons for that. One is that was not optional; that was just a thing and a symbol that was on there, and it was a symbol that was on every single dice. This is only on the red dice, so it's not like something where we kind of get to this conundrum of just like, oh, we're just going to re-roll and re-roll, re-roll all the time. So you're just sitting there, and most of your playtime is just watching people re-roll and re-roll and re-roll multiple dice. That doesn't happen here. It's only like when it happens and they go, oh, wait, I'm going to strike now. And you're like, oh no, it's growing, it's growing. Ah!
So Tom did mention the fact of like watching someone take their turn and kind of like waiting for them. And I think that the flow and the turn order of this game is one of the things that really grabbed me, because there isn't like my attack, your defense, your attack, my defense. Because you roll your dice, you decide what's defending, what's attacking, goes to the next person, and your attack dice don't resolve until their turn's over. So, they have a chance to defend. You can base your strategy on what they're currently doing, not you're going to base your strategy and like hope they do what you think they're going to do. I know it's kind of a funny thing to say.
No, it's definitely like that. Like, Tom would hit me really hard. I'm like, okay, well, now I have to be defensive. I was going to hit him hard, but now, you got to reposition depending on how the game is going.
And especially because Tom had mentioned how, like, it ramps up really fast, where it's not like, oh, I rolled 3 hits, you're taking 3 damage. It's 1 hit is 1 damage, 2 hits is 3 damage, 3 hits is 6 damage. So it's not like you can just, like, soak 6 damage. Like, there's no way, I guess if there's potential of you winning the game, you might push through. But realistically, if they have like 3 hits or more, you're going to change your mind and say, oh, well, I can't attack right now. Or I might take a mid-range because you don't want to soak 6 hits or 10 hits or
it's not attack versus defense, because you can always roll like a pool. Like there's even one card that gives you 1 of each color. So it's always an option, but you do kind of favor one side, attack over defense, so you kind of decide which way you're going to favor, but you can always kind of, do a little column A, a little column B.
And so you do get into these like dominance phases where like Tom attacks super heavy, so I defend super heavy. And so then since I defended, I didn't attack a lot, Tom goes, oh, well, I'm just going to attack again. And so as the person who like is continually defending, you either have to wait out until he's used all his cards and he has to change his guard away from probably high guard, and that gives you a chance to kind of strike. Or if you play a tricky card, like the one that takes away his red dice, or something like that, to try to like wiggle your way out. And I guess it could be almost like you are fighting hand-to-hand combat. You have to like slip away really quick and then hit him back. It's a good game.
So I really enjoy this game. I like the fact that you're rolling dice. That's like my favorite thing in all games ever, is rolling dice. So the fact that you get that exploding dice mechanic, and you're, drafting cards, and, kind of every time you play, it's a new game in a sense, because, you're never going to draft the same hand. it has a lot of replayability, and it's very quick. It's a great game.
So I know this game is still in prototype phase. We haven't been playing it for weeks and weeks and months. But as it stands right now, I have to say, this may be my new favorite 1v1 dueling game. The fact that it's so quick, the fact that there's no deck building outside of the game, everything happens in game. Gameplay lasts like 10 to 20-ish, 25 minutes. So it's quick, you can play rounds over and over again, and it's not like between rounds. That was, my first one I would say was my favorite dueling game was Magic. Most people start there. And I hated that, okay, this deck didn't work. I'm going to need 10 minutes to figure out what I didn't like, rebuild my deck, and you're playing something else, I need to go find someone else to play now. This game cycles quick. When you're done, you just shuffle it up and start again, and you can have a completely different deck, a different weapon, and a completely different game. I am so excited about this game. I can't get over it.
So obviously, hands down, we love Bushido. We definitely think that you should back it. I love it. I think it's great. I think you should probably back it for 2 copies so you can do a 4-play variant, which actually we didn't get to do, but I'm just going to go ahead and assume it's great.
Yeah.
And I think even though we are playing with the prototype right here, I think everything looks really, really good. The art came out great because I actually had the opportunity to play kind of an older prototype, a couple levels back before they really had anything finalized. And the player board was just done by hand on a piece of paper. And this is a lot better than that. I'm just going it was better, yeah.
Guys, you should definitely check out the Kickstarter page if you haven't already. We're going to have a link to it in the description box down below.
And while you're down there, don't forget to subscribe so you'll never be bored.
It's pointed at you too, both of them are, so you can
Oh,
look
are
at
they really?
Yeah.
So what I thought about Bushido was...